Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today, as you can see by the title, we are doing my April wrap up. I read 23 books this month. Can you believe? No, because can you believe, girl?
Can you believe, girly?
I sure can't. That's a lot of fucking books. And I think it's because I did so many damn things for this channel. I have a lot of books that have been featured in vlogs, so I'm gonna try to run through all 23 of these very quick. We're not gonna stick around for a million years. We're not gonna do it because y'all have already heard pretty in-depth thoughts about a lot of these that I have talked about in vlogs. So I will link the vlogs where I read these books if you want like full thoughts. But I think I have at least like 10 that I haven't featured on the channel. So obviously I will give you full in-depth reviews for those. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into my stats for this reading month.
Oh my god. This lip gloss is literally the bane of my fucking existence. It is so like gloopy and gloppy, literally. Everyone at the rainbow party would hate me.
And if you don't know what that is, don't look it up. And if you got the joke, you're a sick fuck. It's fine, so am I. All right, stats time. As I said, in the month of April, I read 23 books for a total of 6,306 pages. This is my mood breakdown. As you can see, we have
Tark? Am I okay?
Dark, tense, emotional, and mysterious reads, which, hello, that sounds very much like me. We're on brand so far. About half of the books that I read were fast-paced, 32% were medium-paced, and then 14%, aka 3 of the books that I read were slow-paced. A third of the books that I read were under 300 pages, and the rest were in between 300 and 500. And I did end up reading one nonfiction book this month. Here is my genre breakdown. I mostly read thriller, mystery, and horror. We had 15 thrillers and 5 horrors, can you believe? And a lot of LGBT, feminist, rep, few stories with a romance thrown in there, and some psychology as well. I know I said that I read 23 books. I only have 22 ratings because I do not rate nonfiction. It's either helpful or it isn't. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and rate somebody's experience, you know what I mean? But I had an average rating across the 22 reviews that I did submit of 3.77 out of 5 stars. I had 1 1-star book, 2 2-star books, 3 2.5-star books, a 3-star book, 7 4 stars, a 4.5-star, and 7 5-star books as well. So we're really all over the board here. And this is the breakdown of how I read these pages throughout the month. As you can see at the end, I read 1,012 pages in 24 hours. Yeah, if you haven't watched my 24-hour readathon vlog, I will link that because it is a delirious mess of fun. So definitely watch that to see me read over 1,000 pages. But let's go ahead and get into the books that I read in April. I'm gonna start with the nonfiction book that I did not rate. I read the new Brené Brown book, which is, I thought it was just me, but it isn't, Making the Journey from What Will People Think to I Am Enough. This woman, Brené Brown, who wrote this, graduated from the same college that I did, and she does a lot of therapy research. She is a therapist herself, so it's very applicable to me, and I really enjoy her research. She writes a lot about women and our relationship with shame and insecurity, so it helped me a lot personally, and it also helps me in, you know, talking to my clients about shame and the type of language that I should be using and things like that. So I really enjoyed this book. It was really helpful. I think this is a very approachable book. I think it's easy to digest just because of the way that Brené writes. She is very personable and it doesn't feel like scientific writing, if you know what I mean. And I would recommend purchasing this book over any self-help book. Like if you're about to pick up you are a badass, buy yourself the fucking lilies, or like whatever those stupid ass self-help books are.
No.
Why would you not buy this for $12 on Amazon and get actual psychological research from a licensed therapist? It's a better option. Please buy this over any self-help book out there. Now we're gonna get into the books that I rated. We're going to, like always, start out with my 1 stars and work my way up to the 5 stars. So the one star book that I read this month was The Lucky Ones by Kirsten Moglen, and it was so bad. It was so bad. This book is a thriller. It's fairly short and fairly fast-paced. It follows the 5 survivors of a suburban massacre. Basically, this entire neighborhood gets killed, and 5 children are the only people that survive. And 5 years later, they all receive letters saying like,
okay, lucky ones, you're not so lucky now. We're coming to hunt you down and tie up the loose ends.
So they're trying to figure out who actually committed this crime and escape coming back for them, you know, whatever. I thought this book was so boring, lacked depth, needed a lot of editing because the grammar was not great, the writing was not great, the characters did not feel real, the whole story was confusing, pointless, and boring. It was horrible, in my opinion. I do have this book featured in a vlog, so if you want to see my full frustrated reactions to it, I will link my new release thriller vlog. Now, jumping into the 2-star books that I read this month. First up, we have The Club by Ellery Lloyd. I read this one in my 24-hour readathon vlog, and it was a slog to get through, honestly. Very similar to The Lucky Ones. This book just lacked a lot of depth, and it was also extremely boring. And I was like,
okay, listen, if you're not gonna be like in depth and get me to care about the characters, at least be like crazy, off the wall, super entertaining.
But this book was really neither for me. It follows this group of like celebrity clubhouses that are all around the world, and you have to have a membership and like be a really important rich celebrity person to get in. But there's some dark stuff going on behind the scenes, and at the opening of their new clubhouse on this island, somebody dies and somebody kills them, and yeah. So the only reason why this book was not a 1 star is because I do think the plot was crafted well. I do think the like layout just on paper is great. I thought the twists were very effective, very well written, but I didn't care about the fact that the twists were good and the plot was well written because I didn't care about the characters at all. The writing was not engaging at all. What was happening was exciting, but I just did not care about it. I could not force myself to care about this book. And it was really info dumpy, which you never see that happening in a thriller. Like maybe in a romance or a contemporary if it's about some niche subject, but mostly you're gonna get that like in a science fiction or fantasy, which is the reason why I don't read a lot of those books, because I don't like reading just information. I wanna go in, know the world that we're living in, and jump into the action. And this book, it was just like,
girl, we're on Earth. We're living in society in 2022.
Why are you info dumping at me? It just did not make any sense, and it was so boring, and I did not like it. And my other 2-star book that I read this month was When She Returned by Lucinda Berry. So this book is another thriller. It's featured in my Lucinda Berry vlog, obviously. You know, I'll link it. I'm just gonna link it all. Don't get mad at me for repeating myself because I'm gonna fucking do it, and it's my channel so I can do it. Anyway, When She Returned is a cult thriller. It follows a woman who had disappeared 10 years before, and she was kidnapped and taken into this cult, and now she is returned 10 years later, but she doesn't know anything about her daughter. Obviously, she's been missing in action all these years, and her husband has actually remarried. So they're trying to navigate that and figure out what happened to her, how she possibly is back in society, and put their family back together after being separated for a decade. And let me tell you, this was a great book up until the last 2 or 3 chapters, and it also just ended very, very abruptly. Maybe if there was an epilogue, this could have been like a 2.5 or a 3-star. But the ending just like, it did not sell me at all. I did not get it. I did not get what was trying to be done. I felt like the whole book was going in a direction of like finding empathy for somebody who has survived such horrible trauma and has really like weird seeming responses to normal people who haven't gone through trauma, and also understanding that intelligent, well-rounded people can get sucked into a cult. It's not just, you know, wacko people that get sucked into a cult. Manipulation can happen to everyone. And I just really liked that messaging, and I feel like the ending, the way it played out, totally negated the message. So I didn't really like it, but since I did enjoy the majority of the book, I gave it a 2-star. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to my 2.5-star books. I give something a 2.5 when it is just exactly average. It is no other way to say it. It is just average because it is right in the middle of 0 and 5. So hence an average rating. The first 2.5-star book that I read this month was Tell Me the Truth by Kirsten Modglin. As you can see, Kirsten Modglin is not popping off for me lately. This is a domestic thriller about a woman who suspects her husband of cheating on her, so she covertly quits her job, gets a job at the place where the girl that he's having an affair with works, and tries to, I don't know, destroy her life, get in there and fuck with her. Like, it's just like a very weird, not fleshed out concept to me to begin with. But she basically starts living this double life. And I basically just thought it was average. There were some twists that I did not see coming. It was super fast paced and easy to read, but did it leave me with any lasting impression? Absolutely not. It could be a fun time if you're like drunk on the beach, but if you're not, I would not really recommend picking this up or going out of your way to find this book. Very average, 2.5. I also rated An Honest Lie by Taryn Fisher, 2.5 out of 5 stars. I know this book is getting a lot of low, horrible ratings, and I don't necessarily agree with the like depth that some people hate this book. I didn't feel like a passionate, burning hatred for this book, but I definitely don't think it was great, and I wouldn't tell you to run out and go pick it up, especially if it's a new release and you're gonna have to spend $15 on it like I did. But basically, An Honest Lie follows this girl who moves across the country to Seattle for her boyfriend. She moves there for him so they can live together in this space with these people that he knows, where his job is, blah, 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 blah. And what comes along with moving there is being immersed in his friend group and also his friend group's wives. And all the wives are just like this little petty group of like Big Little Lies-esque rich women. And our main character really does not get along with them. And she kind of gets manipulated into going on this trip to Vegas with them. They're having like a girls trip. Oh, crazy, let's get drunk. Can somebody order me a lemon drop shot? Like those vibes in Vegas. And Vegas is a very triggering place for her because she has a past growing up in a cult. As you can see, the cult books were not giving for me this month. So we are flashing back and forth to the past when she was growing up in the cult to the present when creepy things are happening on this girls trip. The synopsis gives a lot more away. I think this book would have been rated so much higher by readers if it did not give away basically 70% of what the book was on the back of the freaking book. Like, that was not a good decision. I feel like the twist would have hit so much harder if it did not have that on the back. And it's just like they took it away. It's not even a twist anymore. It's just what people are waiting for, and it doesn't come until 70% through the book. So like, what the fuck is the point of reading 70% of the book? You know what I mean? Like, this book was just so boring, and it felt very, very rushed, and it definitely needed more edits. Like, I feel like somebody didn't go through and edit this book. I was like editing it as I was reading, and I never have the impulse to do that, but
I don't like this one. Like, it just was not,
I would like read a sentence and then read the second sentence and be like, wait, whoa, that sounds weird. Like those two sentences should be flipped. Just like the wording of certain sentences was confusing. The order in which things happened was confusing. There was no fluency in this book. It felt very stilted, and I think it needs a lot of edits, period. I think it should be pulled from the shelves, re-edited, and then re-released. And people would like it a lot more. But overall, it was like a pretty normal plot. Like, it was kind of boring, but there were some things that were fun that happened. Like, it was just very, very average. The end kind of popped off. She like had a lot of things happening. I don't know if I enjoyed them or not. Like, it was just very, very average. I don't hate it. I definitely don't love it. I don't like Taryn Fisher, I don't think. Next up, I have my last 2.5 star book. So we're about to get into the actual good shit after I drag this book real quick. And that is Sick Fucks by Tilly Cole. This is a dark romance, and it is my first time reading from Tilly Cole. I think it's safe to say I will not read from her again. I know a lot of people really, really like a few books by her, like that I can think of. She has like MC, Motorcycle Club, dark romances. I just don't think her writing is for me. I honestly really, really did like the beginning of this book and the setup for the romance, but the actual romance to me was not just like taboo, it was like actually unhealthy and horrifying. And as a mental health professional and an advocate for healthy trauma coping and secure attachments within relationships, I just cannot support this ever. Like, as I was reading, I was just thinking about how fucked up it is, and I could not like ship this couple, you know? It was just disgusting to me. So let me tell you before I get ahead of myself what this book is about. It follows these two children. Literally, they start out as children. This girl and this boy meet each other, and you know that there's like something weird going on. Like, there's like dark vibes, and they basically grow up in this very traumatic situation, and they are the only thing the other person has for comfort, regulation, safety. Like, they are each other's person growing up, and they end up getting separated, and the guy ends up, when he's grown up, going back to find the girl, rescue her, and take revenge on the people that hurt them and made their life so traumatic all those years later. So they're like on a revenge storyline, basically, where they're like running, trying to get revenge on all these people who hurt them so many years ago, and they're just running around killing these people, which I did enjoy that. I will say the kills in this book were amazing. I really did enjoy the gore and the horror aspects of this book, and I think if it was sold as just like a fucked up horror with a really fucked up relationship, I would have loved this book and given it 4 stars. But because Tilly Cole really leaned into the romance aspect of this relationship, I cannot support this at all, and it made me be like icked out, because basically the mental health rep was horrifying. Obviously, they're both super traumatized and acting out based on those traumatic experiences. So our female character specifically is very, very, very regressed. She presents like a 7 or 8 year old little girl, and seeing a woman who talks, acts, dresses, presents like a little girl in a sexual context, like with sex scenes, that's disgusting. Like, I just really think that is disgusting. I know that she's not a minor, but reading this feels like she is a minor because she's so regressed and trapped in this place of trauma where she's basically acting like a minor. I just don't know why you would want to read sex scenes with somebody who's minor adjacent. Like, that is really gross to me. I would rather read about 70-year-old people fucking it up, getting it on, rather than a adult woman who acts like a child because she is completely repressed and living in her trauma. That is horrifying to me. And the fact that the guy like recognized that and still had sex with her and carried on this adult relationship with somebody who is not capable of having that adult relationship, it made me hate him. it made me hate her because she was just living in this like traumatic space and not wanting to get help for it. And it just like all around, I didn't like it because of those things. But the horror elements, again, I really did enjoy, and I liked the revenge plot line. I liked the level of darkness we got to in this book. I liked the twists of it all. But again, the mental health rep. I can't do it. I just wish this book was sold in a different way and didn't have the sex scenes. I would have loved it. I might have given it 5 stars, but for now I have to give it right in the middle because there's some things I absolutely love, some things I absolutely hate. She's average. I did end up reading one 3-star book this month, and that was True Crime Story by Joseph Knox. I listened to this book on audio on Libro FM, and it has a full cast. It was phenomenally produced, so great. The audio editing, the special effects, the sound effects, the music, all of that, plus the full cast was so great. It literally felt like I was listening to a true crime podcast. So if you like that, but true crime podcasts kind of make you feel icky because it's like sensationalizing true events and victim stories, which is kind of how I feel about it, but you still want to take in content that is true crime adjacent, I would really recommend this thriller to you. It is the story of a missing girl. She is out one night with her friends at uni, because this takes place in the UK, and as she's walking home from the pubs at uni, she is snatched and she disappears and nobody knows where she is. And so we have to find her, and we're interviewing all of her mates and sorry, we're interviewing all of her friends, just trying to find out where the hell this girl went, what happened to her. All the characters are like so distinct. They all have their own like thing. There's so much drama. There's just so much like weird relationship dynamics within the friend group. It is so interesting, but I didn't feel like it was a thriller. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't feel like like, maybe because the action wasn't playing out in front of me, because it was like a podcast format. It was like everybody was talking about these events that happened in the past. So I never felt like I was in the action. I think it was a really great thriller, but I would recommend only listening to it on audio. I don't think you should read this as a physical book. And it's more of like a true crime feeling mystery, not a thriller. So I think it was sold not in the right way. And if you go in expecting like crazy off the wall thriller, you're not going to get that. It feels very true to life, like something that could happen, which is scary, but not good enough for me to give it a 4-star rating. So hence a 3. Now I have a lot of 4 and 5-star books to tell you about. So let's go ahead and dive in with The Best of Friends by Lucinda Berry. This is a domestic thriller about 3 women who are all best friends, and they have sons around the same time, and their sons are all best friends, and then their sons get into a very tragic, dangerous situation, and not all of them make it out of the traumatic event. So the moms have to deal with that and figure out what actually happened between the boys without their relationships crumbling. I thought this was a very effective domestic thriller. Not something that's probably going to stick with me forever, but I thoroughly enjoyed it in the time that I was reading it. If you are a domestic thriller lover, especially of like suburban peeping through your window kind of thrillers, you will love this. It was great. Very solid 4-star thriller. I also read Perfect Little World by Kevin Wilson for my Buzzword-a-thon prompt this month. And I really enjoyed this book. It is kind of like a weird, trippy situation, like almost science fiction vibes, I would say. Oh, sorry, I'm exposing myself that I'm wearing sweatpants with a nice shirt. Sorry. It is basically talking about this weird psychological experiment where this guy recruits couples to come live in this compound, separate their children from the rest of society, and try to raise their children in a perfect environment to see if they grow up to be just like better people. And this single mother. She had her son when she was, I think, like 17. She was very, very young to be a mom and to have this responsibility thrown on her. And she's a part of this compound with all these people, and the psychological experiment just starts to go a little off the rails. And it was so interesting to me. And it also made me want to cry at some parts. I did not expect the depth of emotion that I felt while I was reading this book. It was so great. I got very attached to the characters. I was super intrigued by the whole situation. It was a very unique premise. And as somebody with a psychology background, I really appreciated it. So I don't know, this is very, very close to being rated 5 stars, but I just don't think this is a story that I'm going to ever want to return to. I didn't get that 5-star feeling, but it was a wonderful reading experience. Next up, I want to talk about Clown Hunt by Judith Sonnet. I am obsessed with Judith Sonnet. I love her. She is an extreme horror author, and all her books are short, sweet, gory, crazy as fuck. And The Clown Hunt is one of the most graphic and disturbing books I've ever read. All the trigger warnings for this book. Do not come back in my comments yelling at me saying, Hailey, how dare you? This book is horrible and offensive. Why would you ever recommend it? That is the point of extreme horror. It is intended to horrify and offend you. So if you're not looking for that kind of experience, please don't pick up this book. But if you're a person like me who likes dark shit because it distracts you from the medium dark shit in your life, then maybe this would be for you. Basically, this book turns the scary clown horror trope on its head and deals with the situation from like 2016, 2017, where we all just had like random clowns on the streets, like trying to kill us or whatever. Do y'all remember when that happened? Yeah, that was weird as fuck. Well, this book takes that kind of situation where there's just killer clowns on the street and is kind of like playing out the revenge reaction to that phenomenon happening. So it follows a guy who is really down on his luck. He literally has the worst shit happen to him all in one day. He gets fired. He finds out he's being cheated on. Like all this just horrible, traumatic shit happens to him. And then he finds himself in a situation where he's getting attacked by killer clowns. The kills are crazy. There is so much gore. It is literally like this crazy fucking horror movie that they could never make because it would be way too much for normal audiences, that plays in your head, which is why I love horror books, because they can go so much farther than the movies can, and this did everything that I was wanting it to do for me. I also really appreciated all of the representation that went into this book. Judith Sonnet is a trans author herself, so I know it's very important for her to represent the LGBT community. There's also representation in here for kink, sex workers, polyamory, just like all the little things that are thrown in there. I was very happy to see, especially in the horror and thriller genre, which I feel is oftentimes not very inclusive. So it was great to feel that representation as I was reading the book as well. And yeah, this book has one of the most horrifying scenes I've ever read. So if you want to be scared and you're crazy like me, definitely go read this, and also read the rest of Judith Sonnet's backlist, because if you like this one, you will probably like them all. I also picked up another teeny tiny little horror novella this month. It is To Be Devoured by Sarah Tatzlinger,
something like that. I don't fucking know. It's on the screen. Here we go.
Okay, this book is also a queer horror book, which is my fucking jam lately. And it follows this girl who is in this relationship with her girlfriend. Everything's going great, but she just feels like she kind of want to eat her girlfriend. Not like eat, like she gonna get out the knife and fork, you know what I mean? She feels a very strong attachment to birds that eat carrion, like vultures, like the scavengers of the air, and she just feels like those are the only creatures that understand her, and she tries to eat flesh. She wants to be eaten by her girlfriend. She wants to eat her girlfriend. All these weird dynamics come up. She is not in her right mind. And we just follow her descent into madness around this concept of basically cannibalism. And yeah, it is very interesting, very horrifying. I feel like if it was a little bit longer and a little bit more fleshed out, this could have been a 5-star for me, but it just felt a little like quick for me, so I give it 4 stars. It's great. It was fun. I also rated 4 stars A Ladder to the Sky by John Boyne, and this book really surprised me. It is about this guy who is a famous author, but he honestly doesn't have any talent to write well. He just knows that he could climb the ladder of success, ladder to the sky, hence the title, and be the famous author. And he does, but he only gets there by stealing other people's life stories. He literally takes people's lives and he's like,
gonna make it into a book. Yeah, your trauma, I'm gonna profit off of that shit. I'm gonna become a famous author by writing about your fucking trauma that actually happened to you. Fuck being a victim, fuck being a survivor. I'm gonna take that shit and make millions.
That's the best explanation I can give you. So this book is told in 3 parts as we see his life evolve. The first 2 parts I absolutely loved. The first part was like kind of historical vibes, which I was like, ooh, am I gonna enjoy this? I really did. The second part was a total, like, if it was just the second part was the whole book, it would have been 5 fucking stars. Like, that shit was everything. But then the last part was like really slow and drawn out and boring. It was way longer than it needed to be, and I predicted the twist at the end, so it was just like, ugh, are you kidding? Like, you kind of ruined my 5-star feeling, and I'm upset about it. But if you do want to see me reading this entire book in the vlog, I have it in my 24-hour readathon as well. Really wish that 5-star feeling wasn't ruined by the last part, but I just could not give it a 5-star. 4 it is. Next, let's talk about a weird little book that I read because I found it on Kindle Unlimited, and it is the first book in the Dr. Harper trilogy, which is a series of comedic horror novellas about a therapist who just has like wacky clients and things go awry in this man's practice. So the first book is called I'm a Therapist and My Patient is the Next School Shooter, and we go through all these different like short stories basically of these like patient files, and somehow they all like connect at the end. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. The mental health rep was like, it was accurate, but it was hyperbolized, you know, it was like a little bit ridiculous. Like, cases like this are based in like scientific evidence that is presented in the book, but also they would never happen. So as a mental health professional who also loves horror and loves comedy, like dark humor, I really got a kick out of this book, and I plan on reading the next 2, but I definitely don't think this one is for everyone. I just thought it was a lot of fun. My last 4-star book that I have to share with you is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the last book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy, and I'm so glad I ended up picking this book up. Honestly, I was completely sold and thought this book was going to be a 5-star read until the 50% mark. Can we just talk about the 50% mark? What happens there? Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? Why was that choice made? If you don't know what this series is about, it follows this girl named Pip who has a true crime podcast, and she goes through trying to solve murders in her little town using her podcast and interviewing people and sleuthing around like a little Nancy Drew. I was in it for the first 50, maybe even 60%. I was loving it. I was like, this is 5 stars. This is the best book in this series. I love it. And then the weirdest choice ever was made. And I hated it. and it got completely away from like the thriller mystery aspect, and now all of a sudden we're just living with Pip in this place of emotional trauma, which was a very weird tone shift from the whole rest of the series. Like, I signed up for some Nancy Drew shit, okay? If I wanted to go read about trauma, I would pick up all the other books that I talked about, you know what I mean? I just thought this was going to be fun, lighthearted, like crazy little mystery again with Pip. We're along for the ride, but it was like way deeper than I wanted to go with this little YA thriller, you know what I mean? Also, the end really leaned into the YA romance of it all, and I was just rolling my eyes. I was so just like not giving a fuck about this goddamn romance, and it was really becoming the center of the novel, which I feel like Holly Jackson had been really, really great about not letting the romance take over in the previous 2 iterations of this series, but in this book, it dropped the ball. She had me in the first half, I'm not gonna lie, but the second half did not work out for me, and I'm a little bit disappointed. I don't think this was a bad book. I thought it was an okay end to the series. It just did not go where the first half really set it up to go. I think it could have been so, so great. And that's what makes me so sad about this. Like, yes, it was a 4-star book. It was still really good, but I see the potential that she had to be so much more than she was. Also, this month I had one 4.5-star book, and that was The Island by Adrienne McKenty. This follows a family who takes a trip to Australia, and they start to venture off to this little island to see, you know, wildlife, koalas, all these things. They get involved with a very tragic event and end up getting themselves in a sticky situation with like a weird inbred vibes, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes, family that lives in the Australian, like, what do they call it, bushland? I don't know, this like random island with no societal contact off the coast of Australia. And they have to survive and get themselves off this island. It is a survival thriller. It is very entertaining, super enthralling. I really, really loved it. I can't now, as I'm speaking, really remember why I rated this 4.5 instead of 5. But if you watch the vlog that it's featured in, you can find out and see my full reactions and thoughts in the moment. I really went off. I think there's like a 6-minute long review about this book in the vlog, so again, watch my new release vlog. Next, let's get into my 5-star reads. Finally, we are here at my 5-star reads. The first book I want to talk about is The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. This was my Patreon book club's first book club pick ever, and I'm so happy to report that we had nobody, at least that I saw of, rate it less than 4 stars. Can you believe it? This was an amazing first book club pick. Everybody loved it. It is about this creepy little child that this couple who's struggling with infertility adopts, but she is not the sweet little girl that they thought she was gonna be. So she wreaks havoc on their lives. It is a super enthralling thriller. It gets you with the attachment at the beginning half. The first half is like slow burn, getting attached to the characters, and then it sets you up to really care a lot about the second half that pops off, goes off the rails, is so dark. Oh my god, I loved this book. If you take one recommendation from this video, please read this one. Please read this book. It is so good. I also have a vlog of it on my channel. It's in the Lucinda Berry vlog. And also, if you want like baller book picks that are gonna be a 5-star like every time, you should probably join my Patreon. It is linked down below. We have a grand old time. I'm seriously chatting with these gals and one guy every other day, and it is so, so fun. I genuinely love my Patreon so much. So if you are a patron, thank you for being with me. I love you so much. And if you're not and you want to be one, join down below. Okay. Cool. And while I'm talking about my Lucinda Berry vlog, I also want to mention Saving Noah, which was another 5-star that I read in that vlog, and I just think everyone should read this book. I think this book is so important. It touches on topics that I'm so passionate about as a mental health professional, but I never feel like are ever touched on in mainstream conversations, not even literature, just like conversations. And this book is about a 17-year-old boy who struggles with pedophilic disorder. It is a paraphilia. It is a real illness, and I think everyone should learn about it. And this book has incredibly wonderful and accurate mental health rep. Please go read it. This is so much more than a thriller. This has a lot to say. The mental health rep is wonderful. I highly, highly recommend it. Next up, we have another horror book, The Ruins by Scott Smith. Oh my God, this book had me in a chokehold for 48 hours. I could not do anything but think about this book when I was reading it. It's 600 pages, y'all. I never read long books like this. And look at the text. It's tiny. It is small as fuck. And I read this in 48 hours. It made me throw up. Literally, this book made me projectile vomit chicken nuggets. It was not a pretty sight. It was not fun. But that's what happens when you read extreme horror. And I absolutely loved it. Like, this was a no question 5-star book for me. It follows this ragtag group of teens from America that go on vacation to Mexico and decide to go check out these ruins for one reason or another, which I'm not going to give away. And they end up getting trapped there and have to figure out a way out of these ruins because there's something coming to get them. And yes, I'm intentionally being super fucking vague because I want you to go in semi-blind. That's what I did, and I absolutely loved it. It is visceral. If you like something like The Troop, like body horror, gore, things like that, you're gonna love this, but beware, do not eat Chick-fil-A before because you will throw up like me. I do not have anything better to say about this book. Like, it's great. There's nothing else to say. It was great survival body horror, period. The end. It's wonderful. Let's just get into another horror recommendation while we're here. I was really loving the clown vibes after I read Clown Hunt, so I ended up picking up Cirque Berserk. I cannot remember the author's name right now, but I will put it on the screen with the book cover, obviously. This was just a random novella recommendation that I got from Kat from Cat Chats. Thank you so much, Kat, for this recommendation because I loved this book. It is about a group of teens that are, going on the town for their senior night.
Oh my God, senior skip day. We're all gonna go like be crazy.
And on the party bus on the way home, they pull over to this abandoned amusement park and they decide to break in and just have a little time like exploring this broken down, busted ass amusement park. But what they don't know is that this park is haunted by another group of teens who decided to commit a massacre there like 20, 30 years before. It is so good. I love it. We're switching back and forth between the perspective of the people who committed the murder like in like the 80s, I believe. So like way longer than 20 years ago. Wow. The 80s? I was not alive in the 80s, but it feels like 20 years ago, like that feels like the 80s. But no, that was literally the 2000s. Okay, let's not get existential. Anyway, we're flipping between those people and current day, the current timeline with the kids, breaking into the amusement park, and we watch as they get picked off one by one. But it is not just a straightforward horror slasher book. It has some very interesting magical, speculative, magical realism elements, and the intersection of extreme horror and magical realism is where my heart loves to be. I feel like this book was perfect for me. It was like watching a movie that was pulled right out of my brain, and it was perfect and wonderful, and I highly recommend it. Especially if you have Kindle Unlimited, because it's free, it's a quick read, it is so fun, the kills are so crazy, and it was like a slasher with extra. How would you not like that? My next 5-star of the month was also featured in that new release thriller vlog, and it was One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. This is another domestic thriller about this group of women who are rich and catty and bougie and scandalous and dramatic, and their lives start to implode. I want to be really vague about this because, again, I think this is another one you should go in blind with. But basically, somebody dies, and all these women have to be questioned, and as you're reading, you're trying to figure out who died, who killed them, and what the fuck led up to this, what was going on in the community to cause this. And we have the perspective of quite a few girls in the town, including the one person who's not really in the like friend group, who is like the owner of the local salon where all the people go to like get their myriad of treatments done. So this bitch has all the tea. And she's also relatable. She's not like this rich bitch hyperbole of a woman. She's like a you and me kind of girl. It's really refreshing to get her take on things. I thought the twists were wonderful. I was surprised by every single one. I was super invested in the drama. This book had me reading flipping pages on my Kindle furiously because I could not wait. I needed to know what the hell was gonna happen. I needed to know now, and it didn't disappoint at all. There's also some queer representation just slid on in there, which I love to see as well. So yeah, if you're looking for a great new release domestic thriller and you love books like Big Little Lies or something by May Cobb, I think you will really like this one. There is also a scene with a Halloween party, so I think this one could be so fun to read around October. Okay, we're making progress. We're almost to the end. We are to my two favorite top books of the month. The first of which is The Lion Club by Annie Ward. And I'm obsessed with this book. This book is exactly what I needed, exactly what I wanted. If you like just dramatic, rich people drama, suburban, domestic thriller, just the trashiest of the trashy trash thrillers, that's this. I loved it. It was wonderful. It follows this private school that is like very elite, and there are two bodies found in the private school one morning, and it could literally be so many people. It could be like the front desk receptionist who had a weird relationship with one of the teachers. It could be one of the teachers who had a weird relationship with a student, or it could be a mother, because the freaking mothers in this community are whack. They're so involved in their kids' lives. They act like their kid, you know, not going to fucking tennis camp sophomore year is literally the end of everybody's life. It is so dramatic. It is just so interesting to read about these like hoity-toity, bougie, like dynamics where people take everything so seriously and everything is so hyperbolized. Like, it is just such a fun freaking time. The atmosphere in this book is also great. I didn't know it was gonna be like snowy, so I was planning on reading this by the pool, but it was like super rainy and stormy, and I just decided to pick it up. And it was perfect for that because it was storming like the entirety of this book. So it was great to like be cozy and snuggle up and just read this like super fun, fast-paced, trashy little girl. And it was also super surprising at the end. I would not guess any of those twists. It blew my mind. Like, there was one twist at the end and I was like, whoa, okay, shock of the century, good. And then you flip a couple pages and you're reading and you're like, oh, okay, wait, whoa, because no. Whoa, I thought the last thing was the twist, and now this is the twist. And then you get to the epilogue, and it's like whiplash again. It got me again. It was so good. It completely led you astray with all of these red herrings, and then boom, at the end, completely shocked. It was so good. And it went to like a really dark place that I would not expect for just like, you know, your average airport thriller, but she is not your average airport thriller. She really comes with a vengeance, and I love her. I haven't heard anybody talk about her except for my one friend, Matt, who sent me this book, and I thought this was a debut, but it says that she has another book out. I'm definitely ordering that immediately because I love her writing. I love a little fast domestic thriller, so highly recommend her. And then completely on the other end of the spectrum from like trashy, petty drama, we have my top book of the month, which is a hard-hitting, fast-paced, action-packed thriller called Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. Y'all, this book is everything to me. This book was phenomenal. Easy easy 5-star, like no complaints at all whatsoever with this book. It was insane. It follows the families of this gay couple that was murdered, and their dads both kind of feel like the police aren't looking into it, and they're gonna go figure out on their own what the hell happened to their sons. And there's a lot that comes up with that because both of the dads are slightly homophobic, and it's hard for them to accept the way that their sons were born and lived their lives. So they're working through that on their journey to seek revenge on behalf of their sons. And one of the dads is black and one guy is white. So they're also talking about like racial things. It takes place in the South. So it's like a really great opportunity for this black man to educate this white guy and like literally call him out. I love the way that he does it too, because it's just so like normal. I feel like people are often not normal when they're calling somebody out for racism. It's like a very triggering, activated state that they go into where it's just like blame, 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 shame, shame, shame. Ah, you're a horrible person. When really, if you just stay regulated and realize that you have the power to regulate yourself, it can be a very constructive conversation. And I love the way that that main character, that dad, would be like, bro, what you just said is fucked up, and I'm gonna tell you exactly why, even though I'm not obligated to tell you why, and period. Like, he just was so regulated. This man was so deep into his emotions and feeling like everything. Oh my God, I just felt so much for this man. I wanted to be his bestie. And meanwhile, the white guy is like kind of the comedic relief. He is kind of like the, you know, bumbling sidekick a little bit, but then he will have a moment where he just like pops off and murders all these people in this crazy way. This book was like a Quentin Tarantino movie. It was like boom, 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 action, wow, pow, bang. It was crazy. I was so invested, not only in the action and the fast pace, but also in the emotions. Like I was talking about, like both of these dads just like going on this journey to accept each other and their sons was just beautiful, beautiful. And the way that these conversations about homophobia and racism and belonging and even transphobia, there's a trans character in this book, were tackled, were just so regulated. That, I know it's such like a therapist-y mental health term, but that's the only way and the best way that I can describe it. It didn't feel like attack, attack, attack. You're a bad person if you do this, which is such like a black and white trauma way of thinking. It was so nuanced and beautifully done. I think everyone should and could get something out of this book. I think everyone should read it immediately. I have not felt this strongly about a book since Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Like that book changed my life, changed my perspective, made me really think critically, but also sucked me into the story with the mystery and the emotions and the revenge of it all. This feels very similar to that, but it is a lot faster paced than Where the Crawdads Sing. So if you don't like that one, I would say still give this one a try. It was phenomenal. And if you don't like this book, maybe you should look at yourself and the reasons why you didn't like it, because I've heard some bad reviews and I just think maybe this is an opportunity to look inward. Okay, I'm not gonna get on my soapbox, but anyway, this book slaps. Go read it. End of wrap up. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this April wrap up. I hope you got some good book recommendations from this video. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and go to therapy and read a book this week. All right, I will see you in my next video. Bye.